What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the JDW Sports Talk Show. We're officially here, ready for our power rankings to kick off the Week 2, the 2024 NFL season. Week 1's over already. Week 2, looking forward to Week 2. And at number 32, we have the Carolina Panthers going to kick off today's show. I mean, Panthers, man, they just not. Everything looks worse than it did last year. I mean, we knew that the defense was going to be worse. They lost Brian Burns. They lost a couple of other pieces on paper. And now on top of that, Derrick Brown is injured. Defense is worse. And then the offense looked worse as well. Nothing looked better. Everything looked worse. Not even just as bad, just worse. So it's very much looking like, it's week 1. But you had all offseason to get something figured out. Offense, defense. I like Xavier Leggett. I like a couple of the weapons that they have for the Panthers, for Bryce Young now. But the defense looks worse. The offense looks worse. It's just, I don't understand how everything could look worse. Maybe it's just a week 1 thing. But after week 1, the Carolina Panthers are the worst team in the NFL. 31. Giants moved down 4 spots. I mean, look at the Giants. Speaking about a team that just look worse, the Giants all around look worse. You thought Daniel Jones was going to come back. Maybe this offense is going to have a little more of a zing to it. It's going to look a little better. I mean, you have Malik Neighbors. You have a couple of weapons, and it's just not what you expected it to be. I mean, I didn't expect the Giants to be great this year. I thought they would have maybe been okay. But, just seeing the way Daniel Jones has played it, he is not it. The Daniel Jones era is coming to an end very, very soon in New York. So, Giants, 31. Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, there were a couple of times in the game versus the Chargers it felt like that the Raiders were in the game. I liked how Brock Bowers looked. I liked Devontae Adams. Gardner Minshew is Gardner Minshew. But there were a couple opportunities in that game. They kept it closer than I thought it should have been. But the Raiders, they found a way to keep it close. They found a way to get a couple plays in there and make it a game for some of the games. So, but staying put at 30, still lost to a Chargers team that I thought was disappointing in this game as well. Number 29, Arizona Cardinals, they're staying put. I mean, they had their opportunity. They had their chance. Kyler Murray actually looked pretty good. I thought that the offense looked explosive at the beginning. And then, of course, as time went on, felt like the Bills were just starting to take over. The better team was starting to become present. And that's just what happened. And the Buffalo Bills eventually we're just the more explosive team. But I do like what I saw from the Cardinals. And on top of that, the offense looked explosive at times. Unfortunately, Marvin Harrison Jr. had a couple of drops. But, I mean, number 29, staying put. It was a promising week 1. Could they build upon that now? Number 28, Washington Commanders. I mean, they kept it a close game, man. Just as we thought the Bucs were pulling away and we thought the Bucs were going to dominate in this game, it felt like the Commanders were kind of sticking around. I mean, for the whole game, it felt like the Buccaneers were going to win. It never really felt like the Commanders were going to win, but it felt like a couple times the Commanders were just creeping up and saying, "Hey, not yet. This game isn't over just yet. We're gonna be a pain in your side," and they were for a good amount of the game. They were fighting. Saw a couple good things from Jaden Daniels. He looked good running the football, but they're going to move down 2 spots after ultimately losing to the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield had a day on them, so moving down a bit. The New England Patriots, man, they find a way to upset the Cincinnati Bengals. Is this a week 1 thing? Jacoby Brissett and this New England offense, I mean, they didn't really do too good, but they did enough. They found, the Patriots defense actually looked pretty good. Will it continue throughout the entire season, or was it just a week 1 thing? I think that the Patriots will have a good year defensively. Offensively, it's not going to last. I mean, 16 points a week 1 as it is. I don't think that the offense is. I mean, we know that the offense isn't going to be anything special. I don't think Drake May should be starting. I kind of don't even think Jacoby Brissett should be starting. I've liked how Joe Milton has looked. I mean, he's looked really good in preseason and kind of feels like he should be given a chance. But, of course, Drake May is going to be the one given the chance before Joe Milton probably. So, but, New England Patriots move up 4 spots after an impressive one. I mean, not even really, impressive. Was it just the Cincinnati Bengals week 1? But you have to reward them. They might not get many more like this in this season. So I think it was just a week 1 thing. Bengals starting slow. The Bengals just always start slow beginning of the season, especially, week 1 on top of that. So number 26, the Denver Broncos. I mean, I saw a couple good things from the Broncos, but unfortunately, No, not even. I'm not even gonna go that route yet. But look at the gifts that they were given in this game. I mean, they got a couple of safeties. They got an interception to start the game, but it still felt like that the Seahawks were just better than them, and the Seahawks found a way. And and that was a weird game. It really was, because Broncos, man, I mean, they had such an interesting start. Two safeties, an interception right out the gate. It's kind of like, that's kind of how upsets happen. And I would have said that the Broncos beating the Seahawks was an upset, but unfortunately they couldn't do it. They couldn't keep the success going throughout the game. I mean, Bo Nix, he looked a little rough, but I think he had a couple of good plays in there. He had an awesome spin towards the end. That run with the spin to get in the end zone and make it a one-score game and give them a chance. But I don't feel like the score tells the whole story in this game. That was a very, very weird game, but nonetheless, moving down 3 spots, disappointing loss. All right, number 25, the Tennessee Titans. I mean, wow, that is a tough game to lose. I mean, you're up pretty good amount. You're up doing okay. Offense isn't anything special. Wasn't a fan of Will Levis today or Sunday, but that Bears defense is good. And but unfortunately, somehow their special teams and their offense lost in the game. Will Levis threw the pick, and then the special teams gave up a touchdown. It is very the Bears offense was responsible for 0 points. For them to put up 24 points when the offense wasn't really responsible for any. That's a little concerning for the Titans just being playing clean football. It was pretty sloppy football, pretty bad day in that terms. But hey, I mean, the Titans down here at 25, moving down 5 spots just because that's how disappointing that is. I mean, the Titans probably, they should have won that game, but unfortunately, special teams let them down, and Will Levis threw. Will Levis didn't really have the greatest of games, so Bears just find a way in the weirdest way. And then 24, you have the Colts moving down 3 spots. I mean, the Colts, man, the issue with the Colts is Anthony Richardson being a little inconsistent. I mean, he's very raw still. I mean, we saw the big plays from him to Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce was finally coming into form, but ultimately you saw how many throws Anthony Richardson missed. He missed a couple important ones on 4th down. And he threw an interception in the red zone when you might have had 3 points, and those 3 points would have made a huge difference at this point in the game. Obviously, lost by 2. Just a bit of a disappointing outing. It was good for them in a way, to hang in there with one of the better teams in the league, one of the better quarterbacks. But the run defense, dude, they really better get that run defense figured out, because you don't stop the run, you don't stop much in the NFL. I mean, this is a team that could be sneaky as the year goes on. They're going to give any team a rough game, but this team still has a little ways to go. Definitely a little more firepower we saw, but they still have a couple of things that they need to work on. Still early in the season, so we'll see. A lot of teams, still an opportunity for a lot of these teams to grow and be solid down the stretch, and the Colts are one of them. They could be, but we'll see what we get from Anthony Richardson. We'll see if that run defense and that defense in general can kind of fix things up. I'm not a fan of that Gus Bradley defense. Number 23, you have the Minnesota Vikings, man. I mean, really good game against the Giants. I mean, they did play a really bad quarterback. I mean, they made Daniel Jones look pretty bad, and they played a Giants team that's very, very disappointing. Very disappointing week 1, and the Vikings just couldn't really get. I was about to say the Vikings couldn't really get too much going, but that's kind of the Giants. What happened to the Giants? But the Vikings, man. I mean, Sam Darnold somehow looked all right. I mean, that's probably the best game, if not, one of the best games of I almost said Aaron Donald, Sam Darnold's career. I mean, will it last? I don't know. I mean, of course, the Vikings have weapons: Jordan Addison, DJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, and they have Aaron Jones. They have an okay offensive line, but I'm not a fan of their defense, but their defense did look a lot better than they do on paper. They did a very good job against the Giants, but then again, you're playing the Giants, playing Daniel Jones. How much does that have to do with their offensive line just struggling at that? But Minnesota Vikings moving up 2 spots after a pretty good game against the New York Giants, man. I mean, no J.J. McCarthy. I mean, I don't think J.J. is anything special anyways, but At that, the Vikings pull off a pretty good game. They move it 2 spots. So the Bears staying put at 22. So you're gonna say, why are they at 22? They did a pretty impressive comeback win. Well, the way they won is not sustainable. Days when you put up 24 points and the offense was basically responsible for none of those points. It's very, very concerning. Caleb Williams was young. He didn't really look good. Offense didn't look good. Offense was very boring and just could not get anything going. Caleb Williams couldn't really do it. Couldn't really bring it to week 1. But the defense, man, I thought the defense looked really good, and this is the Bears' strength. Defense. They have a good defense, a lot of good players, and they have good players on every level. But can the offense find a way to pick it up? Because being responsible for 0 points, somehow being 1-0, the way they won is not sustainable, and it will not. If that's how they continue to play all season, they won't win many games. They're gonna have to get that offense going. They're gonna have to score points, and you can't rely on special teams in your defense to do that. So. Yeah, staying put at 22, even though they won, impressive comeback, and impressive especially because it was very odd and very different. Just very like, what is going on? But props to them, they found a way, but they're staying put because other teams are moving up. Just how the cookie crumbles. It's kind of how the board is falling, how the puzzle is fitting together. So and then you have the New Orleans Saints moving up 7 spots. I believe this was our biggest movers of the week. What a game. Almost 50 points. Or did they score 50? No, I think it was like 47 they scored. I don't know if they actually reached 50, but nonetheless, they absolutely dominated the Carolina Panthers in every way you can in football. Defense was great. Offense looked great. But then again, we just talked about the Carolina Panthers being one of the worst, if not the worst team in football. I don't think there's another team that could challenge them for being the worst. Maybe the Giants are right there. Really every team has their good parts, and it's unfortunate. Some good teams with a lot of potential are towards the bottom here, but unfortunately that's just where they are at the moment. But the Saints, man, they really, really put it on the Panthers. The run game looked good. That Derek Carr looked pretty good. He had a good day. The defense was awesome. Can they continue to do this? Can they continue to build upon this and then bring it to the better teams in the NFL? I think there's a good chance they could. I think the Saints are a little better than maybe what I thought they were, and maybe what some other people think, but I think the Saints have a shot to be a good team this year, it seems like. But we'll see. Was that just a week 1? How the heck did they do that? Are we going to look back and that be like, how the heck did the New Orleans Saints score 47 points in week 1? It's just a week 1 thing. We'll see. But I doubt it. Especially for how strong it looked. As long as they can protect Derek Carr and keep Derek Carr from being pressured all day from all the game, let's just go all day. But if they could keep Derek Carr pretty much clean, Derek Carr can give you some good games. Although I do want to see Spencer Rattler eventually. I think Rattler is going to be the future. He is the future in New Orleans, and you could bank on that. He's going to be an awesome quarterback for the Saints in the future. Right now, they have Derek Carr, and they're looking pretty good. Number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. Yeah, very interesting. Another very interesting way. They found a way to win. Chris Boswell really got them there, but Justin Fields looked all right. Definitely something to build on. Definitely have a lot to build on, have a lot to work on. But I thought I saw some good things from the Steelers defense. I was shocked that the Falcons didn't put up more points. I was shocked that the Steelers defense looked as good as it did. I knew that the Steelers had a good defense, but I thought they would maybe struggle against the Falcons, because you look at the Falcons, they have so many weapons. They have Kirk Cousins. Maybe Kirk Cousins is just adjusting to the system, but man, the Steelers found a way, man. They found a way, and I guess that's what it's about. Can they find a way to continue this? Could they find a way to build upon it? Maybe, but I still liked what I saw from them. I still liked what I seen from the defense. Kirk Cousins threw 2 picks. Unfortunately, the offense couldn't get in the end zone. They need to work on that red zone offense, and they need to work on, finishing drives, because on the stretch, when you're playing some of the better teams in the AFC, you're not going to be able to kick field goals. You're going to have to start scoring some touchdowns, but we saw a lot of promise, man. And I think Justin Fields should just remain the starter for the rest of the year. But yeah, Steelers moving up 4 spots. I was impressed by that defense. Offense has a little bit to be desired in the red zone and finishing drives, but uh, some really good building blocks, some really good foundation to build upon for the rest of the year. Number 19, the Cleveland Browns. I mean, very, very disappointing game. The first drive, or right in the beginning of the game, it looked like they were just going to get slaughtered. I mean, the Cowboys drove down the field, and that is about as dominant as you can get. And Dak Prescott didn't really look as good in that game, but Deshaun Watson, he had a couple of kind of almost vintage Deshaun Watson plays, but I mean, they're still working on what they're working on. They didn't look really good. You got beat up pretty bad by the Cowboys. I do think the Cowboys are a good team, but they got beat up pretty bad. That's just the story of that game. I mean, moving down 4 spots, not too impressive. So Cleveland Browns, unfortunately, moving down 4 spots, and it looked very good against the Dallas Cowboys. Next up, number 18, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, they had a chance to win this game. They lost on the big field goal at the end there, but they looked all right. But I mean, that defense impressed me. That defense really impressed me throughout that game. I mean, especially in the beginning. You're playing that well against a Dolphins team that has Waddle, OBJ, Tyreek Hill, and all that firepower too. I mean, the offensive line is a little questionable, and they really got after to because of how bad the Dolphins' offensive line is. But unfortunately, they kind of just screwed it up at the end. They couldn't finish the game. They couldn't play a clean game to finish it, and unfortunately, that's going to bring you down a couple spots. Even though you played a really good football team, you just couldn't finish it. You were up 14, 17 nothing at one point. You got to find a way to continue to put points up on the board, and you got to find a way to finish that kind of game, man. I mean, Jaguars showed a lot of promise this game. Can they build upon that? And that's kind of what it is for a lot of these teams, man. Can they build upon the foundation that they've set? Can they get better at the things that they struggled with in week one? And week one is weird. We never know what's going to go on in week one, and quite often you don't know what teams are yet. Sometimes I don't get a good grasp of most of the teams until after week 3, 4. Sometimes it takes until week 5 to really get a good feeling for teams. And but the Jaguars, man, I mean, unfortunate that they couldn't finish the game up 14-0, obviously, but didn't finish it, down 2 spots to 18. Atlanta Falcons moving down 3 spots to number 17, man. I mean, very, very disappointing outing. I mean, you have all these weapons. Kirk Cousins did not look very good. The offensive line was okay. I mean, offensive line wasn't great. I mean, Caleb McGarry had a rough day, man, and having an older quarterback back there and having a Michael Penix Jr. who has had injuries concerns, who was one injury away from Kirk Cousins to get Michael Penix in there. I mean, that's a bit concerning. Caleb McGarry covering, their blind spots and not being very good at it. The offensive line has a lot to be desired. Maybe I don't think they played okay. I don't know why I was saying they played okay. I mean, they just did not look good, man. I mean, the offensive line was tough. It was rough, and that offensive line is going to have to get it figured out. Just a very disappointing game in general. I mean, a team that just looks so much better on paper coming into this year than last year. They have a couple more defensive guys. They have a couple more strong players on both sides of the ball. You get a really good quarterback. It felt like the offense was a quarterback away from being elite last year. What happened today? Did you just run into a really good Pittsburgh Steelers offense, or do you have a quarterback that's in the first year new system, all these new players? All of that can contribute to it, but unfortunately, it was just a bad outing for the Falcons. And on to 16, the Seahawks. I mean, they're moving up 3 spots, man. The score doesn't give the Seahawks justice in this game. All the things they went against, they found a way to get over it, and they found a way to kill it. I mean, I feel like the Seahawks won this game by a lot more than what they won it by. It looked pretty good. Geno Smith, I mean, he is what he is. He's all right. Nothing special, nothing great. You're not going to lose you games. Not really going to necessarily win you games, but he had an all right game. Offensive line, a little bit to be desired, but I thought the run game was pretty good. I thought The defense was pretty good. The defense did a very good job. Mike McDonald really got that defense ready for Bo Nix, throwing in a lot of those zones, making Bo Nix trying to read the zone and, trying to put layers of defenders that are not just man on man and make it easier on him, trying to make him think, and that's good. I like that. I think Mike McDonald is going to have this defense flying around all year long. They were week 1 against the Broncos, and we'll see. The offense still has a lot of firepower. Just Tyler Lockett to end there being clutch with what was it, that one-handed catch at the end, finishing the game off. That's why you pay guys like him. That's why you keep those veterans around, man. I mean, they make big plays and big moments, and Tyler Lockett is definitely one of those guys. Number 15, the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, a little bit disappointing of an outing, if you ask me. I thought that the Chargers should have won this game by a lot more. Look, going into week 1, I thought the Chargers, getting a better head coach, getting a more, what do you call it? A competent head coach, a much more competent head coach. Why was this game as close as it was? Was it week 1 jitters? Was it just getting out there, just trying to, I was a little disappointed with the offense at some points. I thought the offense was a little underwhelming, but I mean, they're going to build upon it, right? They got to build upon it, and they got to get better than this because the Raiders are not a great football team on paper. There were a couple times where it felt like the Raiders made it a game, and the Raiders were creeping up on the Chargers a couple times. So, I mean, the Chargers are going to have to clean a lot up because I wasn't a fan. Wasn't a fan of how they looked on Sunday versus the Raiders. I thought they should have looked much better. But they're still moving up 3 spots because they did win by a pretty good amount, and they did find a way. Even though they played sloppy, they won as well. Los Angeles Rams are moving down to, I don't know why I said against, but the Rams moving down 2 spots, man. I mean, that was a close game. What a game that was. And I mean, Cooper Kupp was awesome. The Rams offense looked pretty good at times. They also had a couple times where they were a little like, what's going on here? But they're playing a good defense, so it's understandable. I thought Matthew Stafford played a pretty good game. Cooper Kupp killed it. I mean, Kyron Williams, they really struggled to get the run game going, but the Lions do have a really good run defense, do have really good defense in general. So I mean, I guess it's understandable, but you're going to have to find ways to get the run game going. Going to have to find ways just to get a couple things going here. And, they kept it close, but it felt like the Lions weren't really the Lions until overtime. Once you hit overtime, it felt like the Lions were just insanely dominant. They turned into the Lions we saw last year in the, towards the end of the year, into the playoffs. I mean, the Lions absolutely killed it. So, but yeah, you're still going to move down 2 spots. Rough game, getting to overtime, and you just kind of fell apart in overtime, or did the Lions just get completely dominant? I mean, all right, 13, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving up 4 spots. I mean, what an awesome day from Baker Mayfield, just making beautiful throw after beautiful throw. Mike Evans making big-time catches. I mean, it felt like a couple of times the Commanders were sneaking up on him, but ultimately they didn't let the Commanders do that. They didn't let the Commanders continue any momentum, and that's good. The defense looked good. Defensive line was getting after it, and the offense, they were running the ball well, getting everyone involved. So I really liked this Bucs team, the other day, man. They looked phenomenal. They looked very good against the Commanders, and I think they should have looked good against their Commanders. The Commanders have a couple of rough spots that obviously are down at 28. I'm not huge on the Commanders, but nonetheless, some very positive signs from Baker Mayfield. I was kind of wondering, is Baker Mayfield going to do it again? Is he going to look the same as he did last year, or did he just have that one-year wonder? But no, man, Baker Mayfield, he's back. He has matured so much, and he has figured it out, and I love to see it. Former number 1 overall pick. Unfortunately, the Browns gave rid of him, and that kind of lit a fire under his butt. But, I mean, he's taking advantage of the situation he has over in Tampa Bay. And Baker Mayfield, dude, give him his flowers. He is killing it, and I love to see it. I freaking love to see it. Offensive line paving way. I mean, I'm excited for this Bucs team. I'm excited to see what Baker Mayfield is going to be able to do throughout the season. How good are the Bucs really going to be? I'm excited, man. I'm excited for Baker Mayfield. Number 12, Cincinnati Bengals moving down 4 spots. I mean, what's going on, man? What's going on? I don't even know what to say. What went on with that game? You went up against a team that probably has a pretty good defense, yeah, but you have Joe Burrow. You have all these weapons, man. Why? Why can't you score more than 16 points? Why can't you outscore the Patriots? Why can't you go out there and just, find a way to beat the Patriots. It's not really concerning because the Bengals always start slow. So I'm not gonna press the panic button. But at the end of the day, it's like, come on, man. I thought I was a little bit generous, only moving them down 4 spots. I feel like maybe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I feel like I should have maybe moved them up to 12, with their dominating win. But I mean, I'm not pressing the panic button. I'm giving the Bengals a chance and not moving them down too much, but not a good week from them, obviously, losing to the Patriots. But I think they will pick it up. They will get it going as Joe Burrow and Chase and all those weapons, those guys they've got there. Zach Moss looked pretty good. So I think that the Bengals are gonna get it going. It might take them a couple weeks. It's just how they always start. Don't know what it is with them, but they always start slow. So the Eagles at number 11, moving up 2 spots, man. I mean, this is a weird team. This is really a weird team, in my opinion. You look at the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts had a questionable game. I mean, you look at the box score, it looked like he had an all right game. I mean, he had a couple big plays, but way too many times is Jalen Hurts putting that ball into harm's way. He put into harm's way like 2 plays in a row, throwing across his body and threw a pick to, I think it was Jair Alexander, and then him just making so many questionable plays. I mean, that pick right in the beginning of the game, that was pretty bad, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt just trying to go up with the ball and make a play. But there were a lot of guys there, so I don't really know why you're trying to throw it there. It's just a very questionable game by Jalen Hurts. Really not sure. He's got to figure out, he's got to stop turning the ball over. He's got to stop putting the ball in harm's way because he's been very good at that towards the end of last year. And to start the year, he looked the same in terms of just putting the ball in harm's way. He's very fortunate that the Eagles' defense was able to come up big. I mean, I think the Eagles' passing defense is very good, and they looked pretty good against the run as well. But their edge rush, their ability to get pressure off the edge was a little underwhelming to me. I think they need to get better on that aspect as well. But you look back at the game, and I mean, in the beginning of the game, they're very fortunate that defense really kept them in the game. Vic Fangio did a pretty good job keeping them in the game, and just getting that defense back to a half decent position compared to last year. Last year, their defense was absolutely horrid. It got to such a bad spot, and now this year you have you have Vic Fangio looked pretty good this year. Looked pretty good week one. Really kept them in the game after the couple of picks Jalen Hurts threw and such. And Vic Fangio, I thought he did a good job on defense. I thought he has done a good job throughout the offseason. It seems like he did a very good job. But look at Quinyon Mitchell. I think he played a pretty good game. I think he looked good in big moments. I mean, AJ Brown, he's elite. He's of course as good as they come. And Saquon Barkley had a really strong debut. So there's a lot of things good about the Eagles here, but there are a lot of things that you're still looking at. Very very important things as well. I mean, the tush push wasn't as effective as it was. I mean, it's only one game, but they went 2 for 4. I think they should really just opt to give the ball to Saquon Barkley and trust your offensive line and trust Saquon Barkley to get through, on 3rd and 4th and shorts. But that tush push isn't going to be as successful as it was last year with no Jason Kelce. Seems like that's already a bit of a difference. But I mean, the Eagles, they have some promising, parts and groups to them, but they have a couple of issues that I worry about. The edge rush was a bit left to be desired week one. Don't forget the defense did allow 414 yards. Let's not forget that. That is a lot of yards, and that is a lot to be given up. I mean, the Packers, really good football team, really explosive offense, so I get it, fine. But that defense is going to have to get better. The edge rush is going to have to figure it out. And granted, the field was pretty slippery and such, but I'm a little concerned about this Eagles team. A little concerned about a couple of aspects of their team, edge rushers being one of them. Passing defense is going to be really good this year, but the edge rush is going to be a little interesting. And when you're playing some of the better quarterbacks who can get the ball out quick, and you don't have as good of a defense line as you've had, that's going to be an issue. But especially when you go and play guys like Brock Purdy, you play the Dallas Cowboys twice a year. You're going to have to get pressure on Dak Prescott. And then, of course, Jalen Hurts putting the ball in harm's way. I'm not really too convinced that this team is as good as they were last year. They really aren't. They don't have the same. I mean, I mean, like the first half of the year. I don't mean like the second half of the year, but really, still don't think they are that team. I think they're a good team. I think they're in the upper tier of good teams, but I don't think they're great. Maybe if they are, they're in the very low range of that tier. But the Eagles, interesting football team. Watch out. They could be sneaky, but it could be a team that's going to disappoint a lot of people as well. Number 10, the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys looked pretty good, man. I mean, one of the first drives, they freaking just dominated. They went down the field like it was absolutely nothing. And CeeDee Lamb got most of his production on that one drive as well. But the Cowboys are looking pretty good. Zeke looked pretty good. Offensive line was pretty good. Dak Prescott, I thought he could have looked a little better. I didn't like a couple plays that Dak Prescott had in there, and I thought he struggled at times. But they did play a really good defense as well. I mean, you look at what they went up against, but their defense, they did a pretty good job. They got pressure on Deshaun. They forced a couple turnovers. I thought that the defense did a pretty good job. So the Dallas Cowboys moving up one spot. Good for them, man. I mean, they're looking pretty good. Yeah, I think it's looking like it's either going to be the Eagles and the Cowboys once again at the race for the win in the NFC East, but I do think the Cowboys are going to get it for a second year in a row. We'll see as the year goes on. Only week one, a lot will change, but Dallas Cowboys have them moving up one spot after a pretty dominating performance against the Cleveland Browns. All right, number 9, Jets moved down 2 spots. I mean, a bit of a disappointing performance, man. And I thought the Jets were going to come out, and I thought they were going to look better than they did. But, it's first game, like I said in our preview. I thought that I saw some vintage Aaron Rodgers plays. I liked how Breece Hall looked. It's just a little difficult to get the ball rolling at times. It seemed like the offense was inconsistent. He did play one of the better teams in the NFL, one of the best teams, and I get it, but you're still gonna move down 2 spots. He did not look good. That defense did not look as good as it did last year, and that's another thing I said. Is this defense gonna look as good as it did last year? Even though they look, they even look a little better on paper, but. It's just a matter of can they do it 2 years in a row? It's very difficult to do. It's one thing to have a great defense for 1 year. It's another thing to have a great and elite defense for 2, 3+ years in a row. It's very difficult to do. It's mostly unheard of. There are some teams out there that can pull that off and have a really good defense from year to year, like the Baltimore Ravens always do, like the Bills typically usually do, the Niners typically usually do. There are only a very few teams in the NFL. I mean, the Patriots used to be one of those teams, and they still have a decent defense, but it's not great. We'll see if the defense can evolve and continue to get better. I just thought that Brock Purdy and of course that Niners team, they were just able to overpower that defense of the Jets, and they played the Niners, so I'm not going to overreact and say it's a bad defense. I still think it's a pretty good defense. They played a really good football team, so it's understandable, but I'm still moving down the Jets 2 spots, and I like how they looked, even though I saw some really good plays from Aaron Rodgers. I saw some vintage Aaron Rodgers plays in there. Just wasn't what they needed. They couldn't put everything together against a really good football team, and that's understandable. I think they're going to get that down the road. I think Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson are going to form a better. I mean, they still look pretty good together, but I thought Garrett Wilson, I thought the playmakers, some of the receivers were a little underwhelming. I thought Garrett Wilson was a little underwhelming to say, but it is what it is. The Jets move down 2 spots, number 9. Miami Dolphins are moving down 2 spots from they're moving up 2 spots from number 10. I mean, am I rewarding them a little bit too much? Maybe, but I felt like they're a better football team than I feel like they're a better football club than the Jets. So I moved them up above the Jets. So that really moved them up 2 spots. And I mean, it was a messy game. It was, but they were still able to figure it out and find a way and get that win off of that long Jason Sanders field goal. But they did it. They did it at the end of the day. They won. They came away with the win, and it was a hard-fought victory. Tua, and, they just struggled a little bit to start the game, and that's going to happen. It's going to happen when you're going up in week one and in general, you're going to have those weeks, you're going to have those rough games, but I think that the Miami Dolphins will continue to build, and I think that they will continue to get better, but their offensive line did not look good. That offensive line, that's something that you can't really fix. Once the season gets going, sometimes there are a couple things that you could adjust and fix a little bit, but when an offensive line looks that bad, typically an offensive line does not get much better than that throughout the season. So that is a big concern, and that is going to hold the Dolphins back once again this year. Just the offensive line, they didn't really address it enough. They did not address it nearly as much as they needed to, and it's going to show in the bigger games. It's going to show versus the better football teams. They have probably the best skill position group in the entire NFL. Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, OBJ, and then they have Mostert, they have Durham Smythe. I think they still have Durham Smythe, but I mean the Dolphins, dude, they have one of the best skill positions, and their defense is is okay. I thought Javon Holland really helped them at the end of that game there, but moving up 2 spots. We'll see if they get stay up here. We'll see if they can compete with the big boys. I'm not sure if they could, considering that offensive line. They're going to beat up on the bad teams. They are going to kill the bad teams. But when it comes to the better football teams, with the good edge rushers, with just better football teams in general, they're going to struggle due to that offensive line. And we'll see what we can get from that defense moving forward as well. Number 7, Packers are moving down 1 spot. Jordan Love looked okay. I mean, I thought he looked pretty good. But unfortunately, he gets hurt at the end of the game. They're very unfortunate. I mean, he's also very fortunate that it wasn't an ACL tear. That knee popped, man. That knee popped, and typically when that knee pops, it's an ACL tear, and that's not the traditional way to tear the ACL. I mean, like 75% of ACL tears are just non-contact, but his knee popped, and contact ACLs are less common, but they happen, and there was a good chance that was an ACL tear, but he was very fortunate that it was just, I believe it was an MCL sprain. Very fortunate. He will still be out 3 to 6 weeks, and even when he comes back, it's still difficult to play with that right away. It's going to take time for him. He may not look the same until the end of the season, because MCL sprains are just like that. They're just very difficult. Even after the time frame they expect you to come back, just because you're coming back does not mean you're 100%. And not being able to distribute your weight properly and get that football out, getting your and being able to perform your mechanics the right way, that makes it difficult. So we're gonna see what happens there. That might derail the Packers season. Unfortunately, I thought the Packers were a Super Bowl contender coming into this season, so that definitely might put a damper on that. But hey, Packers, they're moving down 1 spot, man. I mean, I know I kind of just talked about the whole Jordan Love situation, but I thought they passed the ball well. They have a lot of good weapons. Defense was not too good. And let me be honest with you. It's that run defense that is a little questionable, Unfortunately, it seems like that's the same thing every year for the Packers. They really struggled against the run. They struggled against Barkley. They struggled against the running back. And they're good against the pass. Obviously it did struggle at times in this game, but they will get better. They will be fine against the pass. That defense is good enough against the pass, but the run, man, it's a little bit of a different story. Number 6, Buffalo Bills, man. Really bad start, but after a couple quarters, we started to see the Bills that we all know and love. We started to see the Bills that, we know what they are. Josh Allen, we saw how explosive that the Bills are, man. Even after the forced strip fumble and all that, and they still find a way to come back. They still find a way to win that football game. Very sloppy football game, kind of very similar to the Dolphins game, actually. To the Dolphins, and big game between the Bills and the Dolphins this upcoming week. But I think that the Bills and the Dolphins are going to be a really good football game, but that was a scare for both teams. That was a scare for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, being down 14 points, I kind of thought, the Bills are going to find a way to win this one, and the Cardinals are going to blow it. Don't get me wrong, that Cardinals offense. Kyler Murray looked explosive at times, but is that some? Is does that mean it's time to question the Bills' defense? I don't know just yet. We'll see. Big challenge this weekend going up against the Dolphins. I mean, if they could get pressure, they should be all right. But it's still a big challenge going up against that skill position group. But Buffalo Bills moving up 3 spot after an impressive yet disappointing. They do find a way. So yeah, guys like Gregory Russo, guys like the young core, they looked pretty good. They had a lot of promise. James Cook looked pretty good, I thought. So, but yeah, Bills moving up 3 spots. They still find a way after they had to be resilient in that game, and I mean they had to really push forward to try and win this game, and they won. They won. So it's time to move on. Time to move on to I believe the game is Thursday night between the Dolphins and the Bills. So got to move on pretty quick, and they will. Number 5. Baltimore Ravens and moving down 2 spots. I almost said and the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know why, but number 5 moving down 2 spots. I mean, they just couldn't get done. Once again, they were so close to at least sending this game to overtime. And, once again, it kind of felt like the Ravens had just abandoned their strength and, running the football. You have Lamar, you have Henry, just pound the damn football, man. And, unfortunately, the game was, unfortunately, they had a touchdown that never was. It's just really close there at that, like super close, like insane. But unfortunately, like, I just don't know why they didn't run the football more. I mean, they were going up against a really good run defense, don't get me wrong. Really good defense, really good pass rush in the Chiefs, but come on, dude. Run the football a little more, play to Lamar's strengths. I feel like they passed the ball way too much. So, unfortunately, Lamar Jackson did miss a wide open touchdown as well. There was one that was just, off by a tiny bit, and then he was out of bounds, but then one he just completely missed. I mean, like, those are throws you have to make, man. The most important moments for, trying to get that monkey off your back, trying to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and unfortunately, you just couldn't do it. I mean, Mahomes is going to do Mahomes. Mahomes is Mahoming, fine, but you have to find a way to keep up, and that's your only shot against Mahomes, really. The Ravens do have a really good defense, and that defense did all right for the most part, but Patrick Mahomes, like I said, he's just going to Patrick Mahomes and do him. So, unfortunately, the Ravens do drop to 0-1, and they do lose to the Kansas City Chiefs once again. But we'll see how they progress as the year goes on. They're going to move on from it, and they're going to be a fine football team. They'll probably meet again in January, so hopefully the Ravens can finally beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the playoffs then and give us a break from Patrick Mahomes making it to the Super Bowl. Please, someone stop him. Do we want to see the three-peat? It'd be, pretty cool, but at the same time, it's like, ugh, really? But that's football, man. That's football. So, top 4 didn't really change too much. We just kind of swapped the Ravens and the Lions, if you couldn't tell. Texans, number 4. I mean, the Texans played a pretty good game against the Colts. I think it was a little closer than it should have been. The Colts even had a couple of just missed throws. Anthony Richardson just missed some wide open guys, just threw to the Texans defender. But I mean, C.J. Stroud looked great. He made the big plays when it mattered most. I don't remember if it was Nico Collins or Tank Dell that made that play towards the end there. That was just as close as it can be. It was the one knee down. It was beautiful. It was a great football play, truly was, and that sealed the game, but that shows you how clutch CJ Stroud is. I mean, I do, and the Texans run game, dude, they ran all over the Colts, and the Colts, they had a better run, they had a pretty good run defense last year. Didn't really show on the stat board, but when Grover Stewart was there, the run defense was pretty good. Unfortunately, week 1, fortunate for the Texans, the Colts' run defense just wasn't there. The Colts' defense isn't really there in general, so I thought the Texans did a pretty good job. Unfortunately, you are going to have to pay attention to them giving up a couple of big plays. They have, three huge touchdown plays, and the Colts drove down the field a couple of times. So I would keep an eye on this defense, although I do think this defense will get better as the year goes on. As you always know, the first couple of weeks are always very weird, always just different. But I think that this Texans defense is going to solidify as the year goes on. That's not going to happen again. I think that's a good learning tape for the defense. Just not going to let it happen again. And but yeah, a really good outing. Really clutch, man. CJ Stroud's just clutch. Just clutch when it matters most. Him, Nico Collins absolutely had a day. Nico Collins looking absolutely phenomenal. So the Texans staying put at 4. Didn't move them up because it was a close game. It was a good game. And I thought that the Lions, I felt like the Lions moving up to 3 was fair because throughout the game, they looked all right. They looked pretty good. Jared Goff looked good. I mean, the defense was good. The run defense was on point. But when they hit overtime, that was a whole different team, dude. That was like they killed it. They dominated in overtime like it was nobody's business. Like, they didn't give the Rams a chance in overtime. Dominant offense, stifling defense. They went right down the field. They stopped them on defense. I mean, you can't ask for a much better overtime play than that. They looked like the Lions last year. They looked like if the Lions can play like they did in overtime all year long, the Lions could go to the Super Bowl. They could beat the San Francisco 49ers. And it's really cool to see the Lions, second year in a row. It wasn't just a fluke last year. They're looking good again. They looked good again. They absolutely killed it in overtime when it mattered most, and I expect the Lions to continue to do so. So they move up 2 spots. They swap with the Ravens, and they're going to 3. Number 2, the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, what a great performance from this football team, even without Christian McCaffrey. Kyle Shanahan trying to get that monkey off his back, and this Niners team in general, just, the offense getting the monkey off their back, saying, hey, you guys say that we can't win without Christian McCaffrey, that we're nothing without Christian McCaffrey, and Brock Purdy ain't nothing without Christian McCaffrey. Well, they just proved us wrong. Not me. They proved everyone wrong that didn't, believe in them without Christian McCaffrey. I mean, and they played one of the better defenses in the NFL on top of it. So Niners, once again, going to be one of the better teams in the NFL. Doesn't shock me. Defensive line, they got after it all night long. Did pretty good against Garrett Wilson. They just had a really, really good day. They pretty much dominated I almost said Houston Texans, but they pretty much dominated the New York Jets. Number 1, man. Does it come to anyone's surprise that the Kansas City Chiefs are number 1? I mean, they beat Baltimore Ravens, who I had at number 3, won the Super Bowl last year. As long as you have Patrick Mahomes, as long as you have a top 15 defense and 2 or 3 weapons, the Chiefs are going to be the number 1 team in the NFL. They're going to be very dangerous, and it's just it just is what it is. You can't take it away from them. You can't take that away from them. They're just a really good football team. On top of them just being a top 15 defense, it's one of the better defenses in the NFL. They did a phenomenal job against the Ravens. Didn't let them run the ball much. I mean, I feel like the Ravens should have tried to run the ball more, but sheesh, didn't really give them a chance to run the ball at all. But yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to remain number 1. They remain the kings of the NFL. So that's it for our 2024 or for our week 2, 2024 NFL season week 2 power rankings. That's going to be it. Thank you for tuning in to the JDW Sports Talk Show, where fans welcome. If you enjoy this video, make sure to like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. This is the JDW Sports Talk Show signing off.